Hello. Today we're talking about my masters in France. And for those lovely people who are watching this in a recording, I have an excellent advice for you. You can download this live. And if you download it, you can pause, you can skip, you can increase the speed, you can do whatever. You're going to be comfortable. You're going to be more comfortable if you watch this outside of Instagram, so feel free to do that. If you just go to Yandex and type Instagram скачать, any first links gonna tell you what to do. You copy the link of this live, probably open it on maybe on your computer, and then you download it, and then you do whatever you want with that reasonably. Also, I will try to do the same, and then I will upload it to YouTube, and I will share the link here and on Telegram, and it will stay on Telegram, it will not stay here. So it's gonna be probably more convenient to you. Another thing before we really start talking about the masters itself is a little disclaimer. Nothing on Instagram is real. I'm kidding, but if you're thinking of applying to masters in France, or to especially my masters, maybe text me. So like if you're watching this to get some idea what it's like to study there, know that while I am being honest here, I am very selective with what I say. So moving abroad is a huge decision. You should not take it lightly. So you will need more information. Just send me a message somewhere and we will talk, and I will give you a fuller picture of what you might expect if you do that. Okay, because I already know 3 people who have applied and got accepted to my masters because they know me and because they know the program from me and from my blog. So just, okay, text me and we will talk about it. But if you're just here for the, I don't know, entertainment, then, okay, welcome, and now we're gonna really talk. So for those, again, lovely people who are here, hi. You can ask questions, of course, they're very welcome. Just type them, I will answer at some point. But I have a list of questions that some of you have asked me before. So I will start with those first. And I'll try to start with maybe a little bit of a chronological order in terms of my studies. There is a separate live about my application process and about my first impressions after moving to France and after studying my masters. So I will not go into details again. You can watch that. It's saved on Instagram. It's again on my YouTube. It's everywhere. So maybe watch that. But just for general context, it's a master program. It's 2 years. It's in France. It's EdTech, so educational technologies. So using technology in education. We did a lot of things. Ideally, I think the idea of the people who created this masters was that you combine teachers and people with programming skills, and they are supposed to create something amazing. Like they could create a learning website, a learning application, a learning, I don't know, whatever, a game, like a huge game, proper computer game or mobile game, because the people who can program would be able to create the technical part, and the teachers could create the methodological part, the ideas, and they know how people learn, so the product could be very good. So we did a lot of the stuff around teaching and some of the stuff around technology and around programming. And a very, very logical path after this master's would be an instructional designer. There is a whole folder on my Instagram called Instructional Designer for you to understand what that is. But again, just for context, very shortly, it's creating any kind of instruction. So creating a course, creating a lesson, creating a series of lessons, a series of tasks, creating one just task, creating one micro-learning session, creating like a program for the whole master's. All of us is instructional design, and this is what we are supposed to be doing after the master's. One of the ways. to use this masters. So, one of the questions was, do you need a personal project to apply? And yes, you do. So we had an interview before we got accepted, asking us about our personal projects, like what we hope to achieve by the end of the masters, why we need this masters. But yes, it should be at least an idea or project, because we don't have we don't have exams, we don't have our master thesis in the end of the program. What we have instead is a project. So you are supposed to be working on some project of yours throughout your masters. There is a discipline called interdisciplinary project, and on this project you definitely, on this discipline you definitely work on your project, obviously, but also if you're smart enough, you can connect all of your other assignments all throughout the 2 years to that personal project. And that is supposed to help you with the project itself, like the project should be better, but also it should help you with your time management, because it's just going to be easier for you if you just focus on one thing and you build everything around that one thing instead of just trying to learn everything at the same time. Because there are quite a few assignments obviously during the 2 years. So yes, you need a personal project to apply. It doesn't have to be a real project just yet. And honestly, it doesn't have to be a real project after you finish your master's as well. You just work on it, so you think about it from all the different perspectives, and that's it. You can create it if you want, and if you can, and if you still think that it's a good project to put out there into the world. If you don't, you don't, it's fine. Obviously, my project was asynchronous microlearning. There is nothing I think more about in my life, maybe. So yes, I applied with that. I explained that, like during my interview to get accepted, I explained that this is how I teach my students, and I want it to be better, stronger, higher, and just generally better. They said it's a great idea, and I got accepted. Obviously, they would say that it's a great idea to pretty much anything, but anyway. And so yes, then I was really trying to connect every single discipline to this microlearning whatever. So we had a subject of neuroscience, so I was researching microlearning. There was a subject of no, I don't remember any other subjects. There was like ethics, for example, and I was looking at asynchronous learning from the perspective of different ethnical schools, etc. There were some subjects that I couldn't directly connect to microlearning, so then I tried to find something similar. So there was a project of maker-ed education, and I did a project on autonomous learning, because autonomous students are the only types of students that could cope with asynchronous microlearning. So I did some research into that, and I created a project around that. That project is on my Telegram, by the way. You can go look if you want. Because I was connecting everything to microlearning, it was very so again, it helped with my time management, but also it made it easier to create the assignments, to like write the actual assignments, because a lot of the assignments, part of the thing, like sometimes you have to do some additional work, like research or create something, create a project, create a lesson or whatever, but you also have to write a paper after you've finished. And more often than not, you start your paper with explaining why you chose this topic. And so I had to write the beginning like, I teach through asynchronous microlearning so many times, it's insane, but also I didn't want to try to write exactly the same thing, so I had to change it a little every single time. But if it's something similar like learner's autonomy, it was also easier because to start writing a paper, so I didn't have this white paper problem. When you just sit down, you see a blank piece of paper and you don't know how to start, where to begin, what to do. I didn't have the problem because, again, I could say that I teach asynchronous microlearning, and for that I need my students to be autonomous, so this is very important, blah, 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 crucial, can't live without it, so here is why I focused on this. And this is what I did with pretty much every assignment. There were a few assignments that had nothing to do with my life whatsoever. There was also a question of how did you balance between the required assignments and your own goals? And when I could not really find anything remotely important for my life, I just did the bare minimum and was happy about it. So there was a project about increasing security in the city of the future somewhere in Mexico. Partly because there is some research about cities of the future in Mexico, also because the teacher was Mexican, I guess, I don't know. So Mexico security, it needed to be a gadget. So gadgets, that has nothing to do with me whatsoever. And I couldn't connect it to microlearning, unfortunately. So I just did the bare minimum of what was required to me. Yeah, your favorite one, mine too. Next year, it's not going to be any better. Still going to be a gadget. So yes. But yeah, bare minimum, just deal with it, get it done, forget about it. Still got a good marks, I'm fine. Also, so yeah, the next question, I guess. About a scholarship, there was a question about scholarship and how I got accepted. So again, a lot of it was a previous life, so go watch that, please. But no, there was no scholarship. I paid for my master's. It's not the incredible amount of money that you cannot afford, but yes, it is some money. You pay it once a year for 2 years. That's it. There's no scholarship. You can, in theory, find a scholarship outside somewhere. You can apply for a scholarship for your second year of the university inside the university. I didn't get accepted, but I didn't research anything. I don't really know what they were looking for. There is also a scholarship from the French government. It's very competitive, so you have to research it. It's very real. People get it. I know personally people who got it, but you have to do it. I didn't do it. And you have to really study and research and put an effort into an application. And then, yes, in theory, you can, depending on your program, you can get a scholarship. You can, you might not have to pay the fees, or sometimes they will give you some discounts to something like to the canteen, to the university canteen. Your food will be cheaper. That's an option. But I didn't have that. There are some reductions for, just generally in France, for people under 26. I'm older than 26, and I was older than 26 2 years ago when I came. So a lot of the times I just was jealous of all the other people, and that's it. Sometimes you have some reductions if you're just a student, and I am still a student. Technically, I guess I'm still a student for a little bit. Maybe for 3 days. I don't know. But yeah, so it might be a little bit cheaper living here while you're a student. We'll have to see. Because yes, next year I'm not going to be a student, and we'll see how my life will change. What I know for sure that I will not be able to eat at the university canteen, which is sad, because the food there is 3.30 euros, which is awesome. But I will not be able to go anymore, unfortunately, yes. So there was another question about my visa extension. Speaking of not being able to eat in the canteen. I have my current residency permit till the end of this December, so till the end of this year. And next year I can apply for a residency permit to look for a job. I'm not planning to look for a job because I have, you and the job, and I have no time whatsoever, but also no desire to find a job. But that gives me a year, and so let's have a life in a year. We will talk about my next plans then. Also, the question, how effective was the program? Or did you know everything and just got the paper? That is a very wide question, and I think the different people from my program will obviously give you very different answers, which was also kind of interesting, like our impressions about the program. To me, let's start with the fact that I came here for friends, not for the education, to be completely honest with you. Just to be able to live in France, enjoy the sun, the sea, you know, it's beautiful, it's amazing here. So that was just my reasoning. So I didn't really need the program to be that useful. The paper itself, unless something changes and unless I have to find a job, the paper is not really necessary to me. I can now put in my Instagram bio that I'm a certified instructional designer, and I think that sounds cool, at least for now, because I'm not used to this yet. So to me it sounds cool. I don't know about you, but so yes, if that counts as a useful paper, okay. Now I also feel qualified to talk about instructional design, and I told you that I am gonna write for Give and Get public Vkontakte. For Give and Get community on Vkontakte. Yeah, if they vote for me, they're still voting till the August 30th, I guess. It's not like what I will write about, if I will write anything at all, is something that we've learned specifically, but it just gave me a permission, you know. I am now certified, I have a master's in that, so I feel like I have the right to teach you something about the principles of instructional design. But obviously some of it was useful in the course of instructional design. The first year it was honestly terrible, but then that was something with the teacher, she was too busy or something, and then they fired her, and the next year was much better. So the second year of instructional design was sometimes useful. It was also very demanding and took a very long time, which I didn't obviously appreciate that much because I am busy as it is. But yes, so I did learn some of it through instructional design. Also, I learned a lot of the names and the terms, because there were a lot of the things that I am familiar with, a lot of the things that, some of the things that I use on a daily basis and I did not know that they had a name. There were some things that I kind of assumed they had a name, but I didn't know the name. Now I know. So again, now if I write about instructional design, I'm just gonna sound smarter and more sophisticated, and I will sound like someone you can trust to know stuff, because I now know the names, the terms and stuff. Or at least I know where to look, how to Google, you know, how to do the proper research to not lie to you when I write something. So there is that. During some other courses, I created something that I used, like I posted on a Telegram. I created a few games. I used some of, obviously I used all of the games with my students, but also I used some of the games in a giveaway for you, Rasilka, on Instagram, on Telegram, I don't remember. But there was one, and I used the game that I created, so okay. And that was interesting, like because I had to create a game using the specific technology that I would not otherwise use. So that was interesting, and that could come in handy one day. Also, we worked during, again, the instructional design course, we worked on an LMS, learning management system. So this is, like in our universities, is also Moodle, for example. It's a different Moodle than the Moodle abroad, but it's still called Moodle. Get Kurs is an LMS. EdVibe and Progress.me is an LMS too. Znanie is an LMS. But the typical thing, I guess, if you've taken any courses on Get Kurs, this is very much an LMS. So we worked on a different kind of LMS during our studies, but the idea is similar. So now when I'm working on my course for teachers on asynchronous microlearning, I am creating, like I am transferring the materials from just my website to the LMS on a website platform. And now I have more ideas of how it could work. Like it's a different LMS, so I'll have to look for things. I still have to Google a thing, still have to find the instructions on how to do it. But now I know what can be done, and now I know what to look for, which is very helpful, because you can't just study everything. I can't just Google how to create a course and expect to create a course in like any reasonable amount of time, right? It will take me 5 years if I want to create something good. But if I know that these particular things are good, I can just Google them, and it's going to be much easier, much faster. So that is helpful. And after that, there comes this everyone has their own experience kind of stuff, because the program is mostly asynchronous, like 90% of it is asynchronous, not just online, but asynchronous. So most of the times on an LMS, right, on Moodle, like on a platform, on a website, we have some information, but in order to do the assignments, you are supposed to research. You're supposed to Google, basically, but in academia, that you're supposed to do your own research. And the extent of your research depends on you. And the extent of the effort that you want to put in also depends on you. And so I was, again, very selective with what I chose to put my effort in, because I'm honestly very busy. I don't have time to put my efforts into everything. And also, I don't have enough mental capabilities to focus on everything. So sometimes I did do the real research, like during the neuroscience course, for example, I was researching microlearning. It is very much my life. I am very interested in that, and I need that. And every research I read, I'm gonna use it, and I'm gonna use it many times in different contexts, like during the course, during the Instagram stuff, with my students, etc. So I needed that. I put an effort into that. But when, as I said, it's like security in Mexico, I don't care. I did not put any effort in that almost at all. So I didn't do a proper research, not at all. But there were students who did put, I think, an effort into everything, every single subject, every single assignment. And that obviously was hard, and that obviously took them a very long time. In our group chat, there were people, there was a person who said that this master's is harder for him than doing Delta. He is an English teacher. He didn't do Delta, which tells you a lot, I guess. But he said he did a lot of research about Delta. To him, it sounds easier than our program, which is not my experience at all. I also didn't do Delta, but from what I've heard, it's terrible, and from what I had, I was fine. But again, to be fair, he did put much more effort than I did. He did spend much more time on everything, so it was more terrible for him. We have like digital expertise subject, for example. So this is the programming part. And we had a lot of freedom in what we choose to do, because one of the reasons is that we are very different. There are programmers and there are teachers on the same program. So obviously we cannot do the same programming assignment. So they gave us a lot of freedom in what we choose to do and the level we want to go into, like how deep we want to dive into something. And so there were people who were not programmers at all, who decided to learn to some extent some programming languages and create something with that language. I didn't do that. I used the program like programming 101, but it's like was 100.0001 for dummies, programming for dummies. So this is the program with a lot of templates that you just mix and match and you create something. I created a game to learn body parts and to practice spelling. But I didn't do the programming part itself. I could, and if I did, it would obviously take me way longer, and it would be way more complicated. And also probably maybe it would have been more useful to me if I needed that. Right? So if I plan to use those skills, then yes, I could even ask teachers for help. I could use their expertise. I could email them every day, wait for their response for 2 weeks. But anyway, so that would make my experience much harder. I chose not to do it, so it was easier for me. But yes, obviously some of the things were useful. Also, you, again, since we have a lot of freedom, you choose how you arrange your work. So like sometimes there were assignments that I could just complete just with the knowledge that I had. But obviously I don't have all of the knowledge in the world about this particular subject, so I could do some research anyway, and if I did, sometimes I did, right? And if I did, then it took me longer, and then I learned more. Sometimes I chose not to do it, and then I just completed an assignment, I got good grades, I learned pretty much nothing. That also happened. But this is not something that you judge a program for, this is something you judge me for. That was my choice and my priorities in life. Next question. What could be the next professional step? So, after you finish master's, you can do your PhD, but doing PhD is terrible. Doing PhD is something for a very narrow, for very few people in the world. They are very happy doing their PhDs, and they should. But no other human being outside of this very small circle of people should do a PhD ever, I think. Because it is very demanding, it is very hard. It takes a very long time, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes pretty much all of your dedication. It's hard to do a few things at the same time, like work and have a PhD. So ideally you find a PhD that they pay you for, and you focus on that for like next 7 years. This is not at all what I want to do, so I'm not going to do that, but this is an option. And I finished my master's with honors, so applying for a PhD in terms of my grades would be quite easy in France, but obviously I will have to write a PhD proposal, which I know absolutely nothing about, so I'll screw that up. Another way, obviously, find a job, right? If you don't do a PhD, you find a job. As I said, the program is very diverse. You learn a lot of the things, so you can work whatever. They say that for now, there are not that many EdTech programs in the world. So if you are looking for a job specifically in EdTech, and now in my diploma it says EdTech, this is very cool. Apparently, again, I'm not trying to look for a job, so I don't really know. One of the most common jobs, I think, after this master's is the instructional designer. And we had many teachers, we had much more teachers than we have programmers, because those are the teachers who wanted to transition into instructional design. Usually those are the teachers that have been teaching for quite a long time, and they just want to do something new, something different, something they haven't done before, something they haven't done so many times before. So yes, that is an option. But for me, honestly, the next step is just having a little bit more time. I'm done with my studies, so I'll now have more time for the new students. So I already had a few, like 4 new asynchronous students, I think, in the past 2 months. And I could have some more. I will maybe have some more if you're interested. You know where to go. So yes, I'm gonna have some new students. I teach through beginner to advanced. So again, if you're interested to learn some French in a synchronous micro-learning way with me, text me or go to my website, and there is a special tab on my website for students, and you will have all the information. And I am also working on my asynchronous micro-learning course. It starts in October, and it takes all of my time whatsoever, and all of my energy, and I think about it all the damn time, because I am improving it, and also because I am selling it, and I am thinking of the ways of doing it. So yeah, for me it's just a little bit more time that is now free, now that I don't have to do all of the assignments. And it's a little bit weird that it's September in a few days and I won't have any new online calls about the program. I will not have any assignments. I will not have a schedule. I will not do that. So 2 years, in some regards it's a lot, in some regards it's not. But anyway, for 2 years I've been doing that, and I won't. This is something very new. So yes, this is the thing. Okay, there was a question about fellow students, about all of the interesting stuff about all the other students on our cohort and all the students that I've been studying with. The question was just, just tell us something. So I'm not particularly sure what you want to know, but first of all, my first impression was that I was very impressed. When we met, so the 90% of us is asynchronous learning, but 2 times a year for 1 week, we meet at the actual university here in Nice. We sit at the desks, we see people. We get COVID after we see people, that kind of stuff, real life. So the first time we met, I was very impressed because we spent, the organization was not particularly great. So we had a lot of free time, all of us. And so we spent a lot of time just talking because there were a lot of group assignments that took us way less time than they thought it would take us. And so we did the assignments and then we just were sitting there talking. And a lot of the stories were very impressive about the people who've done incredible things. And you could tell that a lot of the people were very knowledgeable, again, with all the terms and stuff. And also people are from all over the world, not all over maybe, but from many different places. So you hear a lot of different stories. On Telegram, on my Telegram, there is a voice message of me retelling you a conversation I've had with one of the fellow students about homeschooling in different countries. I don't remember the specifics, like the countries, but she has a few children. Again, I don't remember the specific, but not 1, so 2 or 3. And she lived with her family in different countries, in a few countries, and everywhere she homeschooled her kids, or she tried to homeschool her kids. So she has a lot of the experience of how it works in different countries. So I remember, for example, that in Germany, it is forbidden to homeschool your kids at all. Everyone has to go to school because the school gives you a more universal education. Because they're very afraid of what is actually one of the most common reasons for the US to homeschool your kids is, and it's the religious reasons, but usually it's the religious cults who homeschool their kids because their kids can't really go to school and learn about evolution, for example, or reproduction, stuff like that. So they teach them whatever they want to teach them at school, at home. And Germany does not want that because for the society in general, it's better if the kids have the same level of understanding, like the similar way of understanding how the world works, because then for this world to work, it's easier. So forbidden, okay? And that was interesting to know. That was an interesting conversation to have. And also we talked about those personal projects that we have and that we applied with and that we have been working on. And that was interesting of what, it was interesting to know what people can think of, like what they can imagine. Also, it was interesting to know of what people think is doable and is plausible and like how confident they are in themselves. Some people choose something very small, some people choose something very ambitious, and the way they talk about it, say, okay, I believe you, you will do it, and this is very, very impressive. So yeah, that was my first impression. Also about the fellow students, there was a question of which people it was better to have assignments with and which people it was better to go to parties with, something like that. So in terms of parties, pretty much no one lives in Nice, right? Because 90% it's an asynchronous program, so most of the people don't live in Nice, and most of them don't live in France. So they live anywhere, everywhere, around the world. Especially during the first year, there was very, very few, like 2, I think, people, except for me, who lived here. Both of them spoke Russian. Because yes, people from Russia who apply, they tend to move. This year there were more people, more Russian as well, but also more people from other countries as well. But the first year there was pretty much no one, so you can have a party when there are 2 weeks when we meet in person, then yes. Outside of those 2 weeks, we don't see each other, we don't really know each other. So, for the assignments, it was interesting that we had a lot of group assignments or pair assignments, which is a new experience for me because this is not what I'm used to in education. So I had to learn how to do it. But in terms of pairing up with students, I had a strategy. You can judge me for that, but this is what we're here for, right? For you to judge me. So, depends on the project, but once a week we have online meeting, 1 or 2. And during those online meetings, you see who is always there. I was not always there. There were people who were every single time there on time, like in advance. And if it's 5 o'clock and it hasn't started yet, in the group chat there will be messages. Oh, it's 5, what's happening? You know. So people who are always there, people who always show up, people who always ask questions, people who always answer the questions, people who have the cameras on, people who, when the teacher asks, is everything clear? They would, because their mic is on, but they will show the teachers that yes, we are doing great. So I tried during online assignments not to be in the same group with those people, because mostly honestly for them, not for me, because for a lot of assignments I didn't put in that much of an effort that they would put in, I assumed, because so like when we, in a lot of cases we didn't have any choice, right? You have a group, you work with them, you do whatever you can. Sometimes we could pair, and sometimes we could pair randomly, so like you just click and you create a pair. So in that case I waited a little and I didn't click during the first day 2, I don't know, so that all of those enthusiastic people who were there at 5 o'clock would pair with each other and be very happy with each other and do the maximum, like to the best of their abilities. But this most usually is not my plan, especially when we are working in a group or in a pairs, because if we work in groups, we are not going to work on micro-learning, right? Because we have to find some common ground. And sometimes it did work out that we chose something that I could link with micro-learning and they could link with something else, but it's not always possible. So just in case, I didn't want to put all of the effort and I didn't want them to suffer because of my lack of effort. So I waited a little and then I got paired with the people like me who also waited a little, and then we did what we could and we were happy about it. During the actual in-person week, we also had a lot of group projects. Pretty much everything we did was in groups, and there were like 2 scenarios. Some of the assignments were very creative. Then you want to be in a group with those kind of people, because they are usually the ones who can play 3 musical instruments, they can dance, they can create poems in 5 different languages, they can do everything. So you want to be in their group, just smile at the background, clap hands at the appropriate time, and everyone is happy. At least I'm happy. If it's the assignment that is connected to teaching and then you have to think, and it's not you don't feel like you're in a summer camp and you feel like you are at work and you're doing actual mental work, then it's not always maybe the best to be with those kind of people, because if you are not, then you have more chance of having a voice and of being heard and of really exchanging opinions, because you were just because it happens, So if it is a project that you're not interested in and you know nothing about, maybe it's good just again let them talk and that's it. If you do want to talk, maybe choose a different group. Sometimes I did that. Sometimes obviously it was just geographical location, like you sit with people, okay, you work with people. This is how it goes. But anyway, working in person in groups was very interesting. Partly because, yes, we had those long conversations after we finished, but there were different assignments and sometimes it was very nice. During the second year, we had an instructional design hackathon. And a hackathon is when it's like a sprint, when you design something in a short period of time. For us, a short period of time was 2 days, which when we saw it in a schedule seemed like not a sprint at all. But yeah, we didn't have enough time in the end, obviously. So we had to create a course in a group, a course like an online course for a specific topic. I don't remember the specifics, but like for half a day we worked on the goals of the course, then for half a day we worked on the content, but like the general idea what the content would be, and then for half a day we technically created the content, like with our fingers, computers, phones, etc. And then I think for half a day we were presenting what we created. And so the first part of that hackathon, when we worked as a group, was very, very nice, because I was lucky with the group and because I was lucky with the topic of the course, because it was on student-parents relationship, like in a school environment. And I was a student, I worked with parents, I have some idea of how it works and what we could talk about. Because, a slight note, the year before that there was also an instructional hackathon, a different modality, but still an instructional hackathon. And then we had to create a course. For us, it was for people who work in a kitchen, and we needed to teach them some things about the environment, like to not be wasteful when they cook, something like that. And I know nothing about restaurants, and I don't know that much about the environment. So it was kind of nice still, but this year it was easier because the topic was just closer to my personal life. And because I was very lucky with the group, because we had this real group dynamic. Because in a lot of the cases, when you work in a group, you separate the tasks between the members of the group, and then you meet again, and then you just put all of your work together, and here you have the final result. So that works, that is a strategy, this is one way of doing it. But sometimes it just happens that you have the real group dynamic that changes what you have, the product that you will have in the end. Because what we did is, like, one person says something, so you have to come up right with the course. So one person has an idea, another person builds up on the idea, the third person builds up on what is there, the first person just like removes something, gives something, and then you have something very new. So it's not like everyone shares an idea and then you choose the best one. It's like you actually create an idea that none of you would have created if it wasn't for all of you at the same place. And it was the first half of the day. We had the energy yet. And everyone was enthusiastic and everyone was energetic and everyone was happy of doing it. And everyone, yes, I think in our group, almost everyone except for one person, I think, were teachers. Also, there was one of the teachers who had a kid in a French school, so she had the experience from the parent perspective as well. And so we all had something to say, and some of the people were actual instructional designers with an experience of working on the courses like that. So it was very interesting, and it was a lot of yes, oh that, oh no, and that was nice. Again, in terms of what you've learned in the program, during that experience, you don't necessarily learn something new, but you have the experience that I would have not had otherwise, especially since I'm still not looking for a job, right? So this is the experience that would be hard for me to find elsewhere, and that was very nice. So I am running out of my questions, so if you have questions, that is perfect timing to ask them, because I think I have just one last question about my French, and that's it. So I'm gonna answer that and then I'm gonna go. So there was a question of how I learned French, and I didn't. This is the short answer. A longer version is that I remember three very small basics from my university course, but my university course was during some parts of my university, not for all of the 4 years, because stuff happened, you know, the teacher get pregnant, So, and also it wasn't particularly great most of the time, and it was a very long time ago. So I only remember, like, you know, pronouns, the verb to be, that kind of stuff. And then before I came to France, I started doing Duolingo, and I finished after I came here, and I did more than a year of Duolingo until I just ran out of tasks, Duolingo ran out of French. I think when you learn in English, a third language, they have more tasks, but I didn't know that, so I was learning it in Russian, so there was a Russian-French type of thing, and I just finished it. There were no tasks later. And it's not like, obviously, I didn't go to an advanced level, but just, okay, that's enough for you. I started watching videos in French when I was still in Russia, and I still watch them. I started with Peppa Pig, and I have a course for primary school students in English, right? On Peppa Pig, based on Peppa Pig. I was creating it at that period. This is how it was born. This is how the idea came to me, because I was watching it in French, and at the time I had 2 primary school students, and I noticed that their level of English is very similar to my level of French. So I watched an episode of Peppa Pig in French, and if I could understand enough to grasp the general idea, then I would create the tasks for this particular episode and include that into the course for my students, and then for you after that. And if I watched the episode and I didn't understand enough, then I just skipped it and moved on to the next episode. So it was very efficient. And then, yes, I taught that 2 times, the whole course to 2 different students, and yes, they could understand all of this episode that I've chosen, because yes, I knew they would, because I did. And then I moved on to some videos like lifestyle bloggers, that kind of thing. Now, and sometimes just the videos for students. Now I watch a lot of the explanation videos, especially the cartoon, the drawings, because when they explain you something, like something about the environment, for example, or something about how the world works, or why you should not put hot stuff in the fridge, those kinds of videos. They usually show you what they're talking about. They draw the pictures, everything's moving, and you're very engaged, and you can guess the meaning sometimes. So this is what I did, and this is what I do, and that gave me some understanding of French. It's not like I've learned it that way, obviously, but I could understand something. And then when I came, I did a lot of the paperwork, and bureaucracy and immigration is hard. So I learned the words for like create an account, sign here, date of birth, that kind of stuff. You translate it a few times, but you have to do it a million times, so you just learn it eventually. But for the most part, I was good. I didn't really need French that much. I live in a touristy place. Many people speak English here. And yes, and outside, I study in English, and outside of my studies, I spoke either in English or in Russian. I was fine. If I had some bureaucracy issues, usually the people there speak some English and I understand some French. So one way or another, here or there, we would find a solution for me. There was one time when I came to the office, I had a problem. So as usual, I came in and said, "Bonjour, do you speak any English?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, this is it, I guess." This is the day. It should have happened. But the girl who was working there, she was very kind and she was very smart to quickly figure out that I understand, but I just can't answer. So she reframed her questions to be yes and no questions. And since in an office or a certain company, there are not that many problems that I could come with. So she just asked me questions like, "Do you have this? Did you try this? No, okay, so no. Do you have this with you? Yes, cool." And we figured it out. So she was asking me in French. I just said yes, no, and we found a solution. That was a very interesting day for me. Yeah, but I survived. And now recently, fortunately and unfortunately at the same time, I have more reasons to speak French, to actually speak French, not just to understand. And also I understand in a very specific context that I am familiar with. It's not like I can talk about global warming, but maybe I can actually talk about global warming, but there are so many topics that I can't talk about in French. I mean, even listen to in French. So, so now recently I have started doing kind of like micro-learning with myself. So I have a textbook in French. Almost every day for 15 minutes I do something. It's not nearly as effective as it would be with a teacher, because it's not like I spend 15 minutes creating a task for myself and then I speak 15 minutes doing the task. No, I just spend 15 minutes doing something with whatever I have. So it's not the same, and also I don't have the feedback, obviously. But I do have like someone to speak French with, so just I have the general feedback of my whole progress, but I don't have the specific feedback on the tasks that I'm doing. But it's something, you know, it's more than nothing. And now, honestly, I don't have the mental capacity to focus on French, because I am focused on the course that starts in October, and I can't do everything at the same time, fortunately. So for now, that will have to do. And yes, I think that's it. And it's actually been an hour, so that's perfect. So I'm gonna wait for like 15 seconds. If you have any questions right this second, I'm gonna answer them. But if not, we're gonna finish with that. So I'm gonna tell you once again that there is a different life. Two actually lives. There is a live Instagram live, you know, that I did after I came here in November, so like 2 months after I came here in France. Oh, there was actually a live about my application process that I did in Russia. Then there is a live after I came. Then there is a live a year later, that like what my experience has been for that year. And there is this one, so you can go back into my feed and watch those. And on Telegram, there is a hashtag Franцузская магистратура. You can listen to some of the voice messages there. There are like 5 of them, maybe some, not a lot. You can read about some of them experience, and you can read a lot of my assignments. I published some of them that had something to do with microlearning, and that were like good enough to just share. Without any context for you to understand what is happening. So you can go and read those. Yes, thank you for the good luck. I'm not in Paris, I'm in Nice. It's so much better. So yes, and obviously you can ask questions in the comments here, and I will answer here or on Telegram, whichever is more convenient to you. And that's it. And I'm gonna go keep working on my microlearning course. Sign up, by the way. There is a pre-training that's gonna start very soon. And for now, it's only available for people who have filled out the pre-registration form. It's on my website, so you can do that because we're gonna start soon. And for now, it's kind of like a secret that now all of you will know. That's it. I think, yes. And if you do go and download this live, as I advised you in the beginning, please come back and give a like to this live. Okay, that's going to be better for me, because if you watch the live here, it's going to be much better for my engagement rate. But I understand that it's very inconvenient to watch lives on Instagram, like inside the app or the website on the computer. So yeah, feel free to download it, but please come back and give me a like, or just give me a like in advance, because you believe that it's gonna be fun for you to watch. And yes, okay, we're gonna finish at that. Thank you very much for being here, for doing this to me when you join. And yes, if you have any questions, you can ask questions. Have a very good rest of the evening. It's 8 here, so I have some time today yet. Yeah, okay, thank you, and bye bye.